Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time. Some say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
Yeah! I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.
Well, this is it. The last 10 games for this year until we do it again next year. And 10 more ties, actually 11. I accidentally wore the same tie twice in 2 of my videos, so here's an extra tie this time to get us through. Now the top 10 usually isn't a big surprise to several people, and there is only really one new game, although there's a bit of shuffling, and I'll explain why there's shuffling. But like I said in my last video, if you're my top 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 100, they're games that I really enjoy. In fact, I have some more very fervent words to say on this in a conclusion video, which I'm going to do, I would recommend watching after you watch these top 10, my daughter's top 10 and the People's Choice top 10. This isn't here about mumbo jumbo. Here we're here to talk about games, so let's get right to them.
Number 10, Alvin, Lily, Fortune.
Number 10 is Battleground Fantasy Warfare. I have about 10 or 12 of these cases here. Each of these has an army in. I put custom dice in, the special card for that. This is the kind of game that I don't get to play as often as I'd like to, but every time I get it out, I'm reminded about how much fun it is. It is so much fun to essentially have just a very humongous army here in this deck of cards. I mean, I have never fielded even half of this deck of cards at one time. That would be a gigantic army. And I can go through here and I can build decks time and time and time and time again with all the different pieces in here. And even having really huge, I mean, this is an elephant that if it was a model would cost me $40, $50, dollars at the store. And here this card costs, what, 10, 20 cents? And that to me is really exciting, and that's why I like this game so much, or one of the reasons. The other is it is a good miniatures game, and then it's very, very diverse. The factions are really different. The Umenzi, who I'm looking at here, versus the lizards. I mean, the fact that I can take a T-Rex on the board and have a lizardman fight against the undead, fight against actually the Romans, that just provides a lot of variety, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in the game. And so this was an easy pick. This has been on my top 10 for several years now. Still there, hanging on at number 10, a great game, Battleground Fantasy Warfare.
Number 9, Duel of Ages. Ching, ching, ching.
I'm sure there's people who have watched this now. Some people are gasping, oh, the mighty have fallen, because Duel of Ages was number 1 on my list for such a very long time. And now it's all the way down to number 9. Well, that doesn't mean anything, really. It's still a great game, one I enjoy. The thing is, Duel of Ages is kind of almost on hiatus for me because I know Duel of Ages 2, which is supposed to be a revamped, revised version of the game. One I actually haven't seen, but one that I will be playing 9 days from today at BGG.con. So I'm looking forward to trying it out there, and then who knows, maybe next year it will be back up in the number 1. I don't know, but the fact is it's in the top 10 for a reason. And that is because Duel of Ages just does everything I love about a game. It has variety. It has all different kinds of cool powers and people and mixtures, and the theme is just tremendous and overwhelming as you see Genghis Khan running around with a flamethrower, chasing Annie Oakley on a skateboard with a bazooka. And those are just some of the characters' names that you'll know. As the game progresses, you'll get to know and really enjoy all the different characters in this game, and the way the board, there were so many things in this game that are done in such a way that no other game has done them before this one, and really since. And I always thought that was kind of a shame, but it does make this a very unique style game. So I'm very looking forward to the next advancement of Duel of Ages. But as it is, it's still a game that I like quite a bit.
Number 8, 44.
Alright, I'm not lifting my gigantic bag of Memoir stuff onto the table again. But Memoir 44, if you've not played it before, is a 2-player tactical war game with great simulation. Actually, it's just a very light, fun World War II game with all these little plastic miniatures and tanks and cannons, artillery that you're shooting at each other using a card-driven system invented by Richard Borg. Now, it's been on my top 10 list since, well, since I've started. In fact, it was number 6 8 years ago, and so it's still at number 8. The biggest difference, I would say, this year from other years is that in previous years, I often had it tied with Commands and Colors. Ancients, and they're both really good games, and Commands and Colors Ancients this year was number 14, but I had to, when I came down to the wire, I said, look, I like them both a lot. They're very different. Memoir 44 is a lighter game, easier to play, even though there's 700 expansions for the thing. No, even at its deepest, it's still probably a little bit lighter than Commands and Colors. There's more going on in Commands and Colors. There's great line movement in Commands and Colors, an emphasis on leaders, which I like. Great historical battles. Memoir 44, on the other hand, has that plastic pieces going for it, but the fact is, if I'm going to sit down and throw one on the table, it's likely to be Memoir 44, and I have to give Memoir 44 Overlord expansion the credit that it's due. Yeah, you can do Overlordish stuff in the Commands and Colors, but it's nothing like the Memoir 44. I mean, Memoir 44 to me is like a 9, 9.5, I like it that much, but the Overlord expansion goes to 11. Because it's that much fun. And if you've never had a chance to be in one of those, you really should take the opportunity to do so. So that's Memoir 44, a great game about World War II.
Number 7, Descent.
Here's a game that advanced pretty high in my rankings, and that's Descent 2.0. It was number, what was it last year, number 16. It wasn't on my list 8 years ago, although it was 7 years ago, because the first time I played Descent, I fell in love with it. Now, this is a smaller box than Descent, but yet it went higher. And that is because they took Descent and simplified it and streamlined it a little. And that, ladies and gentlemen, does wonders to a game. Honestly, if you are a game designer, streamlining your game. Someone was just asking me the other day about a game, and they said you should add this rule, and I said the game has to be as streamlined as possible because that makes the game better. I know sometimes it's fun to have this unique, odd, weird, quirky rule, but 99% of the time, those are better chopped out. What they did with Descent is they took the original game, which was actually Doom. That was modified some in Descent. It was a lot of fun, but now they've taken it to where it's a much more playable game where you can play this in 2 hours and have a blast. And yet the expansion and ability of this game has not gone down at all. It's still able to be played. It's still able to be, you know, for you to see all kinds of new stuff, and it's somewhat backwards compatible where you can use all the old monsters and all the old heroes. And so that's something I love quite a bit. I mean, I love seeing the big plastic pieces everywhere. I like the fact that now if I play as a dungeon master, I could play my hardest against you, and I feel like it's a fair fight, and it's not just me trying to make sure you're having a good time. There's so much to be said that's good about Descent originally, but this expansion is also one I like. I mean, this reiteration I actually like better than the original one, and in my opinion, it's going to replace the original one in less than a year to the point where this is what people are going to play from now on. At least I am. And another game that has just been on my list for 8 years, stayed strong in its position, and that is Ticket to Ride. And I'll have some more words to say about Ticket to Ride in my conclusion video, but Ticket to Ride is just a game, and this is just one of the versions of it. This is the Nordic version, although I have all mine combined into several boxes. This is my box with all the trains in it. I have all the different trains in this box, but I love Ticket to Ride because of its simplicity combined with its accessibility, combined with the fact that they keep coming out with expansion maps, which is something I like, combined with the fact that there really is some deep strategy. And at the same time, you can lean back while playing and just have a great deal of fun. Ticket to Ride is a game that I've introduced my parents to and had a great time with it. I played it with my wife. I played it with my daughter. I played it with my friends. I played it in my gaming groups. I played it with die-hard gamers. I played it at game conventions. I played it with people who've never played board games before. And it's the only board game really that's this high up on the list that has worked equally well in every single one of those situations. And I like that. I mean, I'm hard-pressed to think of another game that has such wide appeal. You know, a game that's considered a gateway game, as Ticket to Ride is, but at the same time, I can play against you. Let's say you were someone who's played it hundreds and hundreds of times, we can play against each other, really go at it, and feel like there's a good game in it. It's honestly one of the best games ever designed, and I'm very happy to have it in my top 10. Ticket to Ride.
Number 5, Thunderstone. Dun dun dun.
Last year was a big deal because Thunderstone had just broken in my top 10. It had surpassed Dominion. And one of the reasons I had said that it had gone higher than Dominion was because of the way I play it, which was not something that originated from me, but from Richard Launius, and I just took it and ran with it. And that's Epic Thunderstone. It's where you take everything from all the sets and throw it in one. And it changes it from being just a simple deck builder into something different. Now that has been challenged to some degree by them actually coming out with a new version, a 2.0 of Thunderstone Advance, which is compatible with the old sets, but streamlined the rules and also changed how the cards looked. They also included the Epic Thunderstone variant in the rulebook, which was something very nice of them to do. But that has increased my fun. I'm really looking forward to. They're actually going to be reprinting many of the original cards in the new format, and it doesn't matter, just some aesthetics really as to why you might not want to mix them, but they added avatars, they added familiars, they added each of these sets just progressively gets better and better and comes with a good story behind it. And so this is something that I'm enjoying playing. It was really easy for me to say this was my number 5, Thunderstone.
Number 4, Mage Wars.
Mage Wars. Wow, this is one of the highest. It may be the highest debut of a game ever, other than obviously the first year, and that's because I'm just absolutely head over heels in love with Mage Wars. Mage Wars is something I would describe as very similar to Summoner Wars and Magic the Gathering. In fact, it's probably closest to Magic the Gathering, but instead of playing cards into this nebulous area, you are playing cards into a board where they will move around and attack each other with dice. And I like that addition. But the coolest thing about Mage Wars is the fact that you have a book, a spell book, and you can flip through that book and pick out any card you want. So no more drawing and hoping to get the right combinations. Deck building is still a pretty big deal in this game, but deck building is now equivalent to gameplay. See, Magic the Gathering and other CCGs, I like them, of course, but the deck building is vastly superior to the gameplay itself, because it doesn't matter really how well you play the game if the cards should come up in a certain order. So building a deck where the cards you need come up for when you need them is absolutely critical. Not so with Mage Wars. Mage Wars is all about how do you use the cards that you have. So I have a pre-built spell book in this one for the 4 mages that come in. I have 4 pre-built spell books that I made, and you would probably make your books differently, but I would likely use that same one all the time and make changes in how I play rather than changes in how I build the deck. Now, I can do both, but they're both equally as important. Add to that gorgeous artwork, really good support. They've already announced the first expansion with the Force Master and another mage and more cards. This is a game that I'm really excited to get behind. It's been in development for a long time, but they came out with it and did well. Something I wish more and more companies would copy is develop your games and come out with a superior product like this one. Anyhow, I'm very excited to see where this one will end up in the future. I like it a lot. Mage Wars.
Number 3, Hero Escape.
I have some figures here. I have this Black Dragon, which is from Hero Escape. And then I have this, what is this, a Frost Titan and an Ent. And neither one of these is from Hero Escape, and yet they're in my Hero Escape. That's the reason Hero Escape has stayed so high for me. It's a fun game with huge amounts of terrain. And you see all these boxes sitting here that you see in all these videos that I've done. All these are filled to the brim with plastic pieces for Hero Escape. That's all that is. That is the biggest amount of room in my collection is taken up by Hero Escape. And I love the connectability, terrain, and all that. But there is a group on the internet, Heroescapers.com, and I don't even keep up with these guys like I probably should. If I was I'm not a big enough Heroescape fan, I suppose, and I love the game to keep up with them because they come out with new units. I think it's the average is 65 per second or something because there are tons of them. They come out with official sets. They love the superheroes, but all these guys are made. They're custom made. They have custom cards, and I can include them on my collection. And you know what? I don't even care if they're not 100% balanced. As long as they're about 80% balanced, I'm good with it because it's so much fun to use these and to use Doctor Doom against Spider-Man, against Superman, against some Revolutionary War soldiers. It's just fun. I mean, it's just Duel of Ages has the same aspect to it. But this one, I can actually see the pieces, which makes this one even better in my estimation. An easy number 3 for me, Heroescape.
Number 2, Summoner Wars.
Summoner Wars went to number 2 from number 5 last year. And I said I had to put it there because I'm just playing it so much. Now, Mage Wars is pushing on it, and so is Heroescape. But really, when we get to the top 10, these are all 10 games I enjoy. Summoner Wars, though, keeps coming out with more expansions, and it's so well-balanced. One of the most well-balanced games in existence, and it's so fast and so easy. I have the iOS version now on my iPad, and that is a lot of fun to play. And I enjoy playing it, although I don't play it as often as I probably should because I'd rather just play the game in person. I believe there are 16 different factions at this point, and I know that some new stuff is coming out, and that's very exciting to look forward to. But even if they never release another thing, I think I'd be playing this game in 20 years. This is a game that I'm really surprised hasn't gotten huge press, like just everywhere. People are screaming about it because I know it's got a lot. Because Colby is a small publisher, Plaid Hat Games, although Plaid Hat Games is, I don't think, going to be small forever, and anyway, I'm just saying, Summoner Wars is fantastic. If you've never played it before, you say, I'm not real big in this fantasy fighting thing, give it a whirl. It's a game where you have a summoner and you got to kill your opponent's summoner, basically. And you summon different creatures and they move around and attack each other with dice. And there's a lot of luck involved in the game, but some very strategic decisions because cards are your magic that you use to cast other ones. So you can't play everything in your deck. And you will play everything in your deck. You'll go through your whole deck, well, likely, go through your whole deck, and knowing which cards to reserve and which cards to play makes a lot of fun. And now that there's a bit of deck building added to the game with all the different reinforcement packs, that adds even more fun to the game for me. One game that I love, Summoner Wars.
Number 1, Cosmic Encounter.
Cosmic Encounter. Were you guys surprised it was number 1 last year? You know, if you like a game a lot and you make it kind of clear that you like a game a lot, it's a whole lot less surprising to people when you say it's your number 1. But that's okay. This list isn't necessarily about surprises. It's to talk about great games. And Cosmic Encounter is one that I think is great. I was able to play Cosmic Encounter so many times this year, especially at the Dice Tower Convention where I played it every day at least once and some days twice. And it's just a game that every experience is so different and so unique and so much fun. And I'll never play the same game of it twice, and I'm very excited about that. I'm excited that even if they add nothing else to Cosmic Encounter, and they may or may not, if they added nothing else to Cosmic Encounter, I would have enough to play a different game, even if I played it 5 times a day, every day for the rest of my life. What other game can do that? So that makes Cosmic Encounter easily my pick for number 1. Well, that's about it for this time. Oh, I guess that's about it. Well, not really. A couple things. Right after this, I'm going to be posting a conclusions video. And I really like you guys to watch it because not only will I give you some stats about the list for those of you guys who like numbers and stuff, but I also have some other things I'd like to say about the list, the top 100s in general, and about the Dice Tower. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Say that Tom is like a giant among men. Others say he's a little obsessed.
I don't even have a top 10.
Tom Vasel's top 100 games of all time.